Cool.
Hi everyone, this is Thea, and this is Jacob from Introvert Travels. Do you want to describe what you
Hello.
do, Jacob?
Sure. At Introvert Travels, I call myself the founder and chief explorer. And basically, I design life-changing travel experiences for introverts. So I'm kind of designing these bucket list type trips, if you want to use that term, to create experiences for introverts.
Yeah, awesome. So why did you decide to do this?
Oh man, a number of different reasons. But my primary reason was because I come from a travel industry background, working in travel marketing,
Oh, okay.
and every time I would go on these trips, even if they were small group trips, I found that they were invariably catered toward extroversion. And so it was just going from place to place to place, and always kind of like forced interaction with other people, whether it was during mealtime or different activities that we were doing. And it just, for my personality type, it just felt off. And then it kind of struck me while I was hiking in the desert of Utah that, wow, it was just like an epiphany aha moment where, wow, all of these trips are being marketed toward extroverts, and not intentionally, not on purpose. But I was trying to think of commonalities of like how I could design trips that would cater toward our introverted personalities. And so I kind of came up with a formula that I use to plan trips for introverts based off of kind of rest and recharge and sort of alone time versus a life-changing experience, a really mind-blowingly awesome experience with other like-minded introverts.
Yeah. Okay, so these are generally like group activities then.
It depends. I plan trips for individuals, couples, groups of friends, and then ultimately we'll be doing groups of like-minded strangers who don't know each other yet, but who would be good introverted travel partners.
Okay. So it sounded like this started off in Utah at a desert trip. And that kind
It
of
did.
it seems like a nice place for an introvert epiphany, actually.
It was, and that's another part of what I do at Introvert Travels is that a lot of the trips that I plan kind of have common themes, and so I plan different experiences through different destinations, but most of them tend to be kind of these vast, expansive places, sort of the opposite of claustrophobia, and I think that, as you know, introverts, we kind of don't get our energy from other people. And so I was trying to get away from the hustle and bustle of the big cities. And so I don't really plan trips like that. But I think when you go to places like Utah or Patagonia or Iceland and have sort of these excess stimuli removed from the situation, and you're just left with pure nature and these wide open spaces, it really allows you to have these greater thoughts and more clarity. And that's kind of what happened to me in Utah.
Awesome. Okay, so you're kind of trying to organize these trips around bringing that epiphany in and a closer relationship between people and the environment versus just an experience.
Yeah, I like to incorporate elements of nature, culture, history in terms of the types of trips that I plan, and kind of have more of a meaningful travel experience rather than just, going to a beach and getting roasted and toasted.
Yeah, totally. So in terms of your own introversion, have you done anything in your business to just make sure that you're maintaining your energy?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate because my entire business is based online. And so I don't really have to, I set my own schedule. I don't really have to interact with people too much face to face. So if anything, I kind of crave those human interactions because I do spend so much time alone since it is 100% online based.
Yeah.
But in terms of being able to incorporate my elements of introversion, I like the fact that my clients prefer to communicate via email rather than just picking up the phone spontaneously. Not that there's anything wrong with the phone call, but my preferred mode of communication is, Skype or text message or an email. And I kind of like that my clients are on the same wavelength as me.
Yeah, it does help, doesn't it? Like,
It certainly does.
and then when you're like, no, I'd rather just email than voice, they totally understand too, which is
Yeah, exactly. And then it also kind of allows me to do a better job researching things for my clients as well. So if they want to, find the best restaurants in an area or the perfect eco lodge, I might not necessarily have the answer off the top of my head, but if I have an email, I can certainly just talk to my suppliers or go into my files and look really quickly and pull up that information rather than just being on the spot. So for my personality, I'm very much into like kind of providing the answers for my clients. And so being able to have the leisure of, not being on the phone for those like on the spot moments is pretty nice.
Yeah, we tend not to be good with those on the spot moments.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to provide like the best answer rather than having to go back and correct myself and be like, hey, by the way, when I was on that phone call with you, there's actually a better option. And now that I've done the research, so.
Yeah, I've done that before. I've done that several times before.
Yeah.
So you said, I think it was a really good point that having an online business allows you to have that energy for interacting with others. Where does that play in? Are you part of like a co-working space, or how do you make sure that you can actually interact with others even though you're working by yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I call myself a digital nomad. So I do actually do quite a bit of traveling. I'm on the road for about 6 months out of the year. So while I don't have a co-working space per se, I spend a lot of time in coffee shops. And when I spend time in a different destination, I'll spend a few months at a time usually. So I like to get to know the owners of the coffee shop so that when I walk in, they kind of know who I am. And the same with the customers too. Like you'd be surprised at how many people do what we do. And so there are people that go into the same coffee shops on a daily basis so I can see the regulars. And then I'm also a part of a couple of different online networking groups as well. So even though it's still digital, there is certainly like as close to being in person as you could get without actually being in person. So I have several colleagues of mine who I'm very close to through those groups who I communicate with all day, every day, whenever we have a question or you just want to, chat and hang out. Like we'll make the time to do that, whether it's on usually it's Facebook Messenger. But, just developing these really great relationships with people through the different associations that I'm a part of has been really fun too.
Yeah, that's great because, I'm coming across introverts who think that working online means that we don't really need that network and that we don't have to benefit from these other connections with other people, but networking, masterminds, things like that, that's still really important, right?
I think it's almost even more important when you're part of an online business to make sure that you're doing that because, any introvert will tell you it doesn't necessarily mean that we're shy, right? And so having those more meaningful connections is as important for an introvert as it is for an extrovert. And when you're online based, I think having those connections is more important than ever because otherwise they'll just go stir crazy.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so what would you advise to other introverted entrepreneurs? Like, what's your one big advice to other introverted entrepreneurs out there?
Ooh, I have a lot of advice, I think, for introverted entrepreneurs. My main one, kind of going back to branching out and interacting with other people, would be to put yourself out there in ways that makes you comfortable because we can't live in a bubble. You can do so much more by having authentic personal connections with other individuals. And there are certainly ways that we can do that as introverts that kind of cater to our personalities. But by creating these relationships with other people, I think you'll find that your business starts to move forward faster. You can have similar strengths with other people. You can have different strengths with other people. They're always kind of helping put people in touch with other entrepreneurs or clients. And so I just think that being able to build those relationships is really important. And as an introverted entrepreneur, there are more ways than ever with online groups and things like that you can use to establish authentic, meaningful relationships with other people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I love the internet because some people are thinking that the internet is like dividing us, right? It's making us it's separating us from other individuals, but I don't think that's true. I think we can just find like-minded individuals on the internet now.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and especially for introverts. I think maybe extroverts are saying that. I don't know, but as introverts, I think the internet is a great thing. I've met so many wonderful people through my masterminds and my networking groups, through my social media accounts, both personally and professionally. So I think the future is brighter than ever for introverts using the internet to connect with other people.
Yeah, definitely. So if you were to go back in time and meet your younger introverted self, what would your advice be to him?
Hello, baby Jacob. I guess my advice to my younger self would be to embrace being an introvert. I think for so long I was trying to force myself to be an extrovert and an introverted personality, and it just never seemed to jive when I was working in corporate America or in any other situation. It was just, I would push myself to be more social than I was comfortable with. And I think if I were to tell my younger self anything, it would be to embrace being an introvert and to know myself better and to be more honest with myself and just kind of know my limits and embrace it and go from there.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think, like we said, the difference between introversion and shy is actually quite different. And really understanding that difference and then understanding yourself can make a huge difference to just life happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk to people a lot, about my business, and they say, well, how do you work with introverts? And I say, well, it's a lot of people think that all I do is solo travel, and that's just not the case. And I say, well, introverts tend to get their energy from within rather than from other people. We're not necessarily shy. And then by the end of the conversation, I had more than a couple of people tell me, they're like, well, maybe I am an introvert now that you put it that way. I'm not trying to convince you that you're one way or another, but I think a lot of people have this misconception about what it is to be an introvert. And so by the end of the conversation, they're you can see the wheels turning in their head. They're like, well, maybe I'm not so extroverted as I thought.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important for us to speak out, right? And I think the more we talk about introversion, the more people will find out about themselves too. And if they aren't an introvert, then they'll at least find out more about a loved one that's an introvert.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I love most about working with introverts specifically is that I think introverts tend to be very curious. And the meaningful connections that I have with prospective clients or current clients is just sort of this genuine, authentic, curious connection that I have with my clients. And so it's it's refreshing to be able to have a deeper connection with my clients and really create experiences for them that will change their lives because I know about them and I know what kind of experience, what they're looking for, what kinds of experiences would change their life and would be perfect for them. And I love that, being able to connect with people on a deeper level.
Yeah, definitely. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about how people can find you, what social media accounts, and if you have any travel destinations you would really love people to check out. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about how people can connect with you and find out more about your business?
Sure. You can visit my website at IntrovertTravels.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and I have a private Facebook group as well at Introvert Travels on Facebook. It's just a nice small community of like-minded introverted travel addicts where we share travel photography, our bucket list ideas. And it's also a place where people can reach out to me as their personal travel consultant. So that's a more personal way to get in touch with me on Facebook. In terms of places that I love, I'm developing a portfolio right now of a few specific places around the globe that I am just really passionate about sharing with other people. So really into African safaris. I love the African safari experience is my all-time favorite way to travel. So anywhere from Kenya south to South Africa and Namibia are all areas that I love to share with people. In South America, particularly Patagonia, Easter Island, the Galapagos, Machu Picchu.
Wow.
There's just so much history and nature in those destinations.
Yeah.
So those are just a handful of places that I like to share with other like-minded people.
Yeah, they all sound really exciting. So you've been on African safaris then? Yeah,
African safaris are my all-time favorite style of travel. Sorry, I had a frog in my throat. You can edit that out.
So what happens during African safaris?
African safaris are a phenomenal way for people to experience nature and culture at the same time. So the typical African safari experience is broken up into certain sections of the day. So there's a lot of downtime on a safari because you're really kind of gearing most of your activities toward the wildlife.
Right.
Excuse me, sorry. So, for example, in the morning, you could do a hot air balloon ride as you watch the sunrise over the Serengeti. During the day, you'll come back, kind of rest and recharge during the afternoon hours because that's when the wildlife is less active. So you can go to the pool, you can grab some tea or lunch, do some yoga, whatever you'd like to during the day at the Eco Lodge. And then during the evening, one of my favorite safari traditions is a sundowner, which is basically a African happy hour where you go have some wine or cocktails, some light bites out in the bush and watch the sun go down. And then you could do nighttime safaris as well, which are really fantastic because that's when the big cats are most active and they're on the prowl. So you can go on a safari and your guides will take you around with night glasses or some spotlights so you can watch the big cats stalking their prey. And my favorite style of accommodations are also originated from Africa. So there's these tented camps. The word glamping comes up a lot, glamour camping. And there are these gorgeous tented canvas tents that they'll rival any hotel that you ever stayed at in terms of the comfort of the bed. They have fully modern westernized bathrooms, wonderful amenities. And then you can go to sleep underneath the stars. You can hear the sounds of nature at night. You might hear an elephant plodding by in the middle of the night. Like happened to me one time where I just heard this thumping outside of my tent. And the next morning I saw a big pile of elephant dung outside. And it was just so cool to me. And so that's an experience you will never get at a traditional hotel. So I love the African safari experience, my all-time favorite.
Yeah, that sounds really wonderful. So it's not just you're getting outside of your own environment, but you're also interacting with something entirely new, but it's still kind of nature, right? There's still
absolutely. Yeah, and one of the things I love the most is to kind of just picture what the world would have been like before humans. And, when you go to Kenya or South Africa, it really looks like the Lion King, and it's just the circle of life. There is, there are things that you'll see on safari when the cats are stalking their prey and making their kill that might make a vegetarian blush. But it really is the circle of life, and it puts things into perspective, and being able to kind of visualize the world as it was or as it should be. It's really fascinating. And places like Kenya and South Africa and other destinations for that matter have so many different tribes, each one with their own customs and cultures. And so being able to visit different tribes and their living quarters, and they will welcome you into their villages. And it's a really unique experience to get to learn about a completely different culture and see the differences and the similarities between us.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much, Jacob. This was
my pleasure.
This is lovely speaking with you and learning more about what you do. If any of you are watching, go check out Jacob's Introvert Travels website. Maybe book a trip to an African safari because it sounds really interesting. That's it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Thea. Chat soon.